What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. In the last video, I covered the installation of the line lock in my Nova. And so basically, I just covered, hooking it up to the proportion valve, the master cylinder, that kind of stuff, making the lines, and getting it situated with a custom bracket that I made so that everything is nice and packaged in one little spot. Now, in this video, we're going to cover the wiring. I made it pretty simple for myself, and I'm going to share that with you guys. So let's get that camera turned around and let's show you how I wired up my line lock. So here we are at the workbench, and I got a couple things laid out that I use for the installation of my line lock that I wanted to just go over. So when you get the line lock, you're going to get one of these. This is just a momentary switch. My kit happened to come with this one, and basically the way it works is, you press the button, the line lock turns on, you let it go, the line lock turns off. But this is big, this is bulky, it has that big red button. It's not stealthy looking, which is, kind of what I want. So I'm not going to use it. Instead, I opted for these button switches. So this one's a momentary. So, push down, turns on the line lock, let it go, turns off the line lock. But I want safety, so I decided to get a second little switch. And this one's not a momentary, this is a latching switch. So press it once, it turns on, press it again, it turns off. And the reason why I wanted a second one is because, well, with the momentary one, if it was always armed and you accidentally press the button, well, you'll turn on the line lock, if you accidentally press it. And I don't think that that's good for safety, because brakes are very important. We don't want no accidental pushes of this button. So that's where this one would come in. I would just, if I want to use the line lock, I'd have to arm the entire system first. So that's why I chose two of them. And you'll see how they get wired up later on in the video. So the second thing I want to cover is the LED. So this is the one that came with the kit. Again, I don't want to use this. It's bulky. It's kind of big. And so I just didn't want to use it. But if you've been watching my videos, you'd know that in LS Rebirth episode 18, I talked about a project, and I had shown that there was 2 LEDs in my ashtray already pre-installed. I explained what those LEDs were, why they were there, and I also stated that one day I'll find a use for them. Well, since I'm not using this LED anymore, the LEDs that are in my ashtray is what I'm going to use for this project. So you'll see that later on in the video. The third thing I want to talk about is this plug-in connector. Now when you get the line lock, you basically just you'll have 2 wires that are, ready to be spliced into, one would be negative, one would be positive, at least in the case of my line lock. And so normally you just find a 12-volt source, you plug it in, you'll wire it in, you'll solder it, you'll heat shrink it, and then it's a permanent installation. Well, I don't want a permanent installation. Why, do you ask? Well, what if I needed to rebuild that line lock? I need to remove it from the car. So I decided, why don't I make it easy on myself and get one of these waterproof plug-in connectors. So one would be attached to the line lock, and the other end would be attached to the car with the 12 volt and the negative source. And so when I want to remove the line lock, I just unplug it. When I want to put back the line lock and it's all said and done, you just put it together and you're done. No cutting of wires, no worrying about resplicing, no worry about resoldering. It's pretty much, becomes plug and play. The last thing I want to talk about is the relay. Now to provide the 12 volt source for the line lock, I wanted to ensure that it had its own 12 volt source, and the best way to do that is to use a relay. So I'm going to talk about the pins just for a second. Now, as you can see, the pins are labeled on this relay, and 85 and 86 those correspond to a positive and negative, and those are just the power source for the relay itself. When you apply 12 volts and a negative, the relay would close. When it closes, these two pins, and let's not worry about this one, but these two pins would connect, therefore allowing voltage, which is what we're going to do for this project, voltage to pass from 87 to 30. When the relay is off, even though we have voltage in 87, 30 would not get any voltage. So voltage would not cross these two pins. So 87 would be to the battery, 30 would be to the line lock. And this is all shown in the schematic that I will show right about now. So you saw the schematic, and I have here the schematic all printed out, and now I have all the parts that I talked about earlier laid out on the schematic. So the relay should be self-explanatory. The only thing I'm going to say about the relay is for the positive side of the relay, which is, 86 and 87, 87 being the power source for the line lock and 86 being the power source for the relay, I connected those two and went straight to the battery. In my case, I'm getting it from the alternator direct, which you will see later on. So we have positive already situated. For the line locks positive, which is, how we're getting power here, we're connecting the positive for this plug-in connector straight onto 30 on the relay. So, so whenever the relay turns on, power would jump from pin 87 to pin 30, powering the line lock. The other part of the line lock, the negative, well, you just get it from any ground source. So we're done there. Now inside the cabin, we got the two latching and we got the LEDs. For the positive side of the LED, you just find one 12-volt source. And in this case, because I'm using two LEDs, I just joined them together so that it just simplifies things. And for the negative side of each LED, I connected it to each of the switches. So we only have one ground powering both switches, both LEDs, and the relay. That's it. One single wire going from the cabin to the relay, and that single wire will power everything. And so that makes it easy when you're using the latching, because as you can see, there's two pins on the latching. One pin will go to the ground and the other pin would go to the momentary switch. And then the second pin on the momentary switch will go to the relay. So when this is not armed, none of the system will work. When I arm the system with this latching switch, we now have ground going from here, turning on the LEDs, and turning on the relay, which will enable the line lock. That's how I put safety built into my setup, and this is basically in a nutshell how this schematic works. So now let's show you how it looks in the car. So here we are at the engine bay, and as seen from the last video, there's the line lock, or some would call the roll control. So let's talk about the wiring. So the wire that comes off of the line lock itself is encased in this wire loom. So I just wanted to make it look really nice and pretty. And so it goes through this loop here, which is a factory loop. And you can see right here is my connector. And then the wiring goes behind the air filter box assembly. So there's my air box. And if you haven't checked out that video, I'll link it up in the corner so you can see how I built that. But that area under the filter stays nice and cool. It's away from all the heat sources, so I figured I might as well put the relay in there too. And I also have, see if I can pull it out of here, there's the fuse, the 5-amp fuse. And I made sure to have it back there as well so that it's away from all heat sources. So it's convenient. It's right there, it's not going anywhere. Now for the power source, for the relay and for the line lock, we're getting it right from here. This is my alternator. It happens to be right here. It's convenient. And you can see the wire is also going to the relay that's located under the filter. And so as we know, the alternator connects directly to the battery, so that serves as a battery source for my line lock and my relay. So we have a wire now that goes, it's a negative, that goes from the relay all the way into the cabin. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. Okay, so here in the cabin. And so now let's check out the latching button and the momentary button switches. So you can, let's move this out of the way so you can get a good view of it. Let's get this out of here. Okay, so there are the buttons. So we have here the latching one, so you can see it there. And then we have the momentary right here. Now obviously, all of this is usually performed when the car is on. So the car is off right now, and here's where the LEDs are situated. So you can see them there. So let me put the key on just so that you can see the LEDs turn on. So, okay, so we have the LEDs right there, and we have the latching right here, and then we have the line lock. So let's see if we can get everything in the frame. So here's the latching, and you can see when I turn on the latching, I get an LED that turns on, showing me that the system is armed. And then here is the button for the line lock, and you can see that when I hold the button for the line lock, the second light turns on. So let's see that. So you see, that's for the latching, which arms the system. So when that light is on, I mean, it's unmistakable. I'll know that my system is armed because I have that LED nice and bright. And then when I'm ready to do, to actually use the line lock, do a burnout, whatever, I just hold the button and I can see clearly that I can now do a burnout. So that's pretty much the system. It's pretty simple, straightforward. It works. And we just have one wire, like I said. It's just, I get my ground source for this one, and then that wire would jump over to the momentary switch. Now the wire that comes from the latching to the momentary switch, that's where the first negative for the LED is connected to. And then from the momentary switch, the wire that's going towards the engine bay, that's where the other LED is connected to. So it's the LED negative is connected to the wire that's going from each of the two buttons. So there you have it. Line locks installed in the Nova. In the last video, we got to see me actually install the line lock with the brake lines and stuff. And in this video, we got to see the wiring. So, this job is a two-part job. I mean, you got to put in the line lock first, get it situated to where you wanted it. And then you're going to have to bleed the brakes. And in this case, I wanted to do a full brake bleeding flush type deal where I bled every single line. All the calipers are fully bled with fresh fluid. Just wanted to get everything brand new. I mean, you're doing the job, you might as well, do it complete. So I did a full flush. And so then I tackled the wiring because it is a two-part job and, takes a little while. Got to make sure the car works first before you even play around with, the wiring. I had to make sure the car actually stops. That was priority number one for me. So after installing the line lock, I didn't, go straight into the wiring because I wanted to make sure that everything was good. Because if I had to take out the line lock again, well, I didn't have to worry about any wiring. So, and that plug that I installed, as you saw in this video, it makes it easy if I ever did need to take out the line lock, which is why I went ahead and installed that plug. But anyway, it's all done. And one day, in the future video, we'll get to see the Nova do a burnout once again. So, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget that notification bell. And if you like the video, hit the like button, because it does help out the channel. And in the description box below, you'll see a link to my Instagram page, where you can follow me and check out my photos, and occasionally I'll give hints that I'm going to drop a video. So it's good to follow me there. And of course, you can always communicate with me there, because if you had a question or whatever, you can private message me, and I'm always there. So, hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.